In 1959, a mechanic could find a leak with a bar of soap that a shop today will charge you $800 to go hunting for. 25 of those tricks are nearly gone. I am going to give you all of them. Right now there is a spot on the floor of your garage. Maybe coolant, maybe oil, maybe just water off the air conditioning, you tell yourself. You have been stepping over it for 3 weeks. There is a tire that reads 31 on Monday and 26 on Friday. There is a ticking under the hood that is loudest cold and gone by the second mile. You already know. You have just been hoping it would stop on its own. It will not. And when you finally take it in, here is what happens. They will not find your leak. They will replace the assembly your leak is somewhere inside of. $4 of rubber sold to you as an $800 job because almost nobody in that building was ever taught how to find anything. The man who taught me ran a 2-bay station on a state highway, and he kept a bar of plain white soap and a coffee can of water next to his bench. Not for his hands. He had a different bar for his hands. That one was a tool. He could find a leak in a tire, a hose, an exhaust manifold, or a door seal with it in about 90 seconds, and he did it for nothing while you waited. Number 11 is the reason your brakes will not bleed, and it will save you an afternoon of losing your mind in the driveway. Number 9 finds a vacuum leak the way men used to find them with flammable spray, except this one cannot catch fire. Number 5 finds the water that has been soaking your carpet all winter, and body shops bill hours chasing it with a garden hose. And number 1 is the habit underneath every other trick on this list. It is what the old man drilled into me before he let me hold a wrench, and it is the reason a bar of soap saved his customers more money than any tool in that building. He was not unusual. In 1959, there was a bar of soap on the bench in half the garages in America. A man bought it for a nickel and used it to find what everyone else guessed at. Today, there's a machine for each of those jobs and a fee attached to everyone. We did not gain anything. We were sold the same nickel bar, broken into a service menu. So, do me a favor before we start. Tap that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because these are the 25 lost garage tricks 1959 mechanics did with a bar of soap that sealed leaks modern shops charge $800 to fix. Number 25. Scraping the bar under your fingernails before you start. You dragged your nails across a dry bar until they packed full. Grease and filings could not get underneath, and at the end of the day, it washed straight out. Every apprentice learned this in his first week. It was not vanity. It was the first thing the trade taught you about getting ahead of a problem instead of scrubbing at it afterward. Number 24. Running screw threads across the bar before you drive them. Before a sheet metal screw or a machine screw went into a tight hole, you ran the threads twice across the dry soap. It cut in clean instead of galling and rounding out the head. A body man in 1959 could hang a whole panel of trim without twisting off a single screw. The soap fills the thread and takes the friction with it. It was not the screwdriver that stripped that head. It was a dry thread fighting you the whole way in. Number 23. Soap on a hacksaw blade and on a file. You wiped the bar down the teeth before you cut. The blade stopped binding in the kerf and the file stopped pinning, which is when a chip wedges between the teeth and drags a bright scar down your work. A shopman in 1959 cut exhaust pipe all day on one blade. It was not a dull blade that quit on him. It was a loaded one. Number 22. Marking the cut line on dark metal. Grease pencil smeared, chalk blew off, and scribing a line into a stressed part left a notch you could not take back. A corner of a dry bar drew a bright clean line on rusty steel, on rubber, on glass, and rinsed away with plain water. The line had to show. It also had to be able to disappear. Number 21. Soap on a tap or a drill bit in soft metal. When you were threading aluminum or drilling thin steel with no cutting oil on the bench, you loaded the flutes with soap. The chip came off in a curl instead of welding itself to the cutting edge. A mechanic in 1959 chased a stripped aluminum thermostat housing back to good this way. It was not the tap that broke. It was the chip that never got out of its way. Number 20. Smearing soap on glass before you weld. You wiped a wet film over the windshield, the chrome, anything the sparks could reach. Spatter hit the film and sat on it instead of burning into the glass. A wash, and it was gone. There is no fixing a pitted windshield. There is only buying another one. Number 19. Soapy water inside a hose before it goes on the neck. Wet a finger, wipe the inside of the hose end, and push. It goes on full and square instead of stopping halfway and only looking seated. Then the clamp lands where it belongs and the joint holds for years. Half the coolant leaks I have ever found were not bad hoses. They were good hoses that never went on all the way. Number 18. Soapy water on rubber bushings, control arm bushings, sway bar bushings, body mounts. You wet them and they slid home instead of tearing or folding. Never grease, never oil. I am coming back to that, and it matters more than anything else on this list. It was not force that seated that rubber. It was water that let it move and then dried away and left it alone. Number 17. Soapy water on a grommet. A wiring grommet through a firewall, a body plug into a floor pan, a boot sliding over a shaft. You wet the lip and the hole and worked it through, and it seated instead of rolling under. A folded grommet is a hole, and a hole in a floor pan is a wet carpet every winter for the rest of that car's life. Here is something nobody is counting. The men who could find a leak with a bar of soap and a cup of water are nearly all gone. They came up before the smoke machine and the diagnostic fee. The youngest of them are past 80. They never kept this in a book. They kept it in their hands, in 30,000 hours of standing next to cars that leaked and learning exactly where leaks live. When they go, the bar of soap stays right there on the shelf, $1, exactly where it always was. But the knowing goes into the ground with them. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, take 1 second and tap the like button, hit subscribe, and turn the notification bell on, because these old fixes are the ones the algorithm buries and the shops would rather you never heard. Number 16. Soapy water on a valve stem. A snap-in rubber stem has to be pulled through the hole in the rim and it will not go dry. Force it dry and you tear the sealing lip you cannot see, and that tire goes soft in a month. A tire man in 1959 wet every stem. A shop today puts your slow leak on a lift, calls the wheel or the sensor suspect, and quotes a package. It is a $2 part hiding behind a very large number. Number 15. Soapy water on the tire bead. A thin film around both beads, and the tire walks over the rim lip and seats with one clean crack of air. Thin is the whole trick, because too much and the tire can slip on the rim later. This one is not folklore. The tire mounting lube sold at every parts counter today is soap. They just put it in a bucket and printed a label on it. Number 14. Brushing suds around the rim flange. When a tire holds pressure on the gauge but loses 5 pounds a week, you brush soapy water right where the rubber meets the wheel. If bubbles crawl up along that line, your leak is corrosion on the rim, not the tire at all. A tire man in 1959 broke it down, cleaned the flange, and reseated it in 20 minutes. A shop today sells you the tire. Number 13. Suds on the tread and on the valve core. You wet the whole tire, and then you stand there and watch. A nail head foams. A leaking valve core foams right at the center of the stem. A driver in 1959 did this in his own driveway before he ever paid a man. That core is a 50-cent part, and it is the single most common slow leak on earth. Do this before you let anybody touch your wheel. Number 12. The rope and the soap on a windshield gasket. On a car with rubber set glass, you laid a cord into the gasket channel, soaped the rubber, set the glass in the opening, and pulled the cord slowly from inside. The lip flipped over the pinch weld, and the windshield was in. Modern glass is bonded with urethane, and that is a different trade, but every classic on earth still goes in on soap and a piece of rope. Number 11. Soap on the threads of a brake bleeder screw. When you vacuum bleed brakes, you will pull bubbles forever, and it will make you lose your mind, because that vacuum is drawing air past the bleeder threads, not out of the brake line. A smear of soap around the base of the screw seals those threads, and the bubbles stop. It was not air in your brake system, it was air coming in around the very screw you were staring at. Let me tell you the part of this I skipped. I did not start out knowing any of it. I started sweeping the bay and pumping gas for the old man. And for 2 years, he would point at a wet spot on a driveway, hand me the coffee can with the bar in it, and walk away without another word. I thought it was a joke he was playing on the new kid. Then one January, a woman came in, certain her radiator was finished, because a shop across town had told her so. He wet the seams, waited, and one bubble came up the size of a pea at a heater hose clamp. He turned that clamp a quarter turn and charged her nothing. She drove that car 9 more years. The first thing he ever taught me was 7 words, and it was the last thing he told me too. Never fix what you have not found, and it is the thing you are going to hear again at number 1. Before we get there, do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the bell. It is free, it takes a second, and it is the only reason a channel like this one can keep putting these back on the record. Number 10. Soapy water on a pressurized cooling system. Pump the system to the pressure printed on the cap with a hand tester, then brush suds along the radiator seams, the hose ends, the water pump weep hole, and the heater fittings. A slow, cold leak that never drips on your floor will grow a bubble you cannot miss. A shop charges you for a dye kit and an hour of labor. The bubble is free and it is faster. Number 9. Soapy water for a vacuum leak. With the engine idling, brush soapy water along the intake gasket, the vacuum lines, and the base of the throttle body. Where there is a leak, the idle shifts as it draws air in, and you will watch the suds get sucked into the crack. Men used to do this with flammable spray and set engines on fire doing it. Soap finds the same leak and cannot burn. A rough idle and a lean code is a gasket. A gasket is not $800. Number 8. Soap on airlines and fittings. The compressor that cycles all night, the impact gun that lost its punch. You brushed the couplers and hose ends and watched for foam. A shopman in 1959 walked his airlines every spring with the bar in his hand. Every leak you cannot hear is a motor running for nothing. Number 7. Soap on the exhaust seams. With the pipe cold, brush suds along the manifold flange, the collector, and the pipe joints. Start it. Have someone lay a rag loosely over the tailpipe for a few seconds only, and the leak blows a patch of foam. A tick that is loud cold and fades as the engine warms is almost always a manifold gasket or a cracked flange. Naming the exact joint is the entire difference between a gasket and a manifold. Number 6. Soap on the charge pipes of a turbocharged car. This one is not from 1959, but it is the same bar of soap. Low regulated air into the intake tract, then brush every coupler and both intercooler end tanks. The boost leak that took your power and set your check engine light will bubble at a clamp. A clamp. And a clamp is not the turbo they are about to quote you. Number 5. Soap and the blower motor to find water leaking into your car. Wet carpet, foggy windows, a smell you cannot get out of the headliner. Close every door and window, run the fan on high on fresh air, and from outside, brush soapy water along the door seals, the windshield edge, the trunk seam, and the taillight gaskets. Cabin air pushes out the same gap the rain comes in, and it lifts a bubble right at the spot. Body shops bill hours hunting these with a garden hose. There is a reason nobody points you at the drugstore shelf anymore. Look at the counter next time you're in a shop. A diagnostic fee, a dye kit, a smoke test, a leak hunt at $200 an hour. Every one of those is a bubble somebody could have shown you in 90 seconds. I'm not telling you there was a meeting somewhere. I do not believe in that. What happened is quieter and worse. Diagnosis takes time and skill, and it carries risk, because guess wrong and you eat the labor. Parts carry margin and no risk at all. So the trade drifted toward replacing the assembly instead of finding the fault, and one generation later, nobody was left who had been taught the difference. The craft was not stolen. It was made unprofitable and then allowed to die. Number 4. Soap on rubber. Never oil, never grease. This is a rule, not a trick, and it is the one almost everybody gets wrong. Petroleum swells rubber, softens it, and eats it from the outside in. Bushings go loose, grommets go soft, seals go weak and start weeping a year later, and nobody ever connects it back to the grease that made the job easy. Soapy water lubricates while you work, and then it is simply gone, and the rubber sits down dry and tight. Grease made the part go on easy. It also started the clock on when it would fail. Number 3. Knowing where a leak always starts. You never went looking everywhere at once. You looked where they always begin, and it is a short list. Anywhere a hose end meets a clamp, any gasket flange, any valve stem, any seal around a spinning shaft, any rubber lip pressed into a metal channel. Leaks are not random, and they are not bad luck. They live where rubber meets steel, every time, on every car ever built. Learn those 5 places, and you can check your own car in 5 minutes standing in your driveway. Number 2. The weekly walk with the bottle. Once a week, you took a spray bottle of soapy water and a rag, and you walked around the car. Wet the valve stems. Look at the ground where it sat all night. Squeeze the top radiator hose at the clamp. It was not a repair. It was 5 minutes of standing still and paying attention. Every leak on this list is small and cheap for weeks, and then expensive for one single day. And the only thing that decides which side of that day you are on is whether anybody looked. Before I give you number 1, this is the last thing I will ask you for. Hit the like button, subscribe if you have not, and turn on that notification bell, because the next one of these I put out is the tricks these same men did with a length of baling wire, and you will not see it unless you tell the machine you want it. Number 1. Finding the leak before you replace anything. That is all. Before a single part comes off, before a single dollar is spent, you make the leak show itself, and you put your finger on the exact spot it is coming from. A wet finger, a film of soap, and the patience to stand still for 30 seconds and watch. Every other trick on this list, the tire, the hose, the manifold, the door seal, is only this one habit made specific. Bubbles do not lie. They do not upsell. They do not guess, and they do not read a code and order the biggest part the code touches. That $800 bill is almost never the cost of what was broken. It is the cost of nobody being able to find it, so you buy the whole assembly it was hiding inside. Number 1 is not a trick. It is a bar of soap, a little water, and the refusal to replace anything you have not proven is bad. None of this needed a certification, no scan tool, no subscription to a manufacturer's database. It needed a nickel bar of soap and a man who believed he could find the fault with his own eyes before he spent your money. That belief was the default setting in every garage in America. Not confidence that came out of training. Confidence that came out of intimacy. Enough hours next to enough cars that you knew where they leak before you ever got down on the floor. We did not lose the soap. It is still right there on the shelf for $1, exactly where it always was. We lost the hands that knew what to do with it. We lost the man in the gray uniform who wet a seam and found in 90 seconds what a shop wanted a day and a diagnostic fee to look for. So the next time you find a spot on your garage floor, do not reach for the phone. Reach for the bar in your shower and a cup of water, and go stand there and watch until something bubbles. The old man handed that coffee can to me on his last day in the bay, pointed at a wet spot on the concrete, and said the same 7 words.